in within their first 3 months, and then they're like, all right, I've done everything that I can here, and then all my friends are moving over to the next game that's coming out, and we're gonna go and burn through all that stuff. And
Are most of them ping-ponging back to World of Warcraft in between?
it seems like there's just kind of like an idle WoW account, just kind of always running the clock.
When expansions come out, I bet they jump back in for like a month,
Your
and then they're
your fans can fact check this because I'm just talking out my ass as I always do.
Sure.
But there's a guy that kept a site, and it used to be called like MMORPG or something.com, but he's changed the name a few times. But he tracked all the users by game, and he's still out there. And I've looked at it since '04, and the total number of players in the West, so you didn't have China in there, was 10 million in 2004, and it's all the way up to 12 million now.
Right.
And WoW got 6 million of them. And so it really hasn't grown much. And WoW, I think, arguably is responsible for all the growth. And somebody can fact check that, and they'll say, no, Packer's an asshole is 9.6.
But you're suggesting, though, that the international...
Do you want me to say that?
No, it's just the point is that it's just not that big a market.
I don't want to.
That's not that many people. And now that League of Legends has 38 million, I forgot how many I last saw, but it's something like that, playing for free, it's like they have to be bleeding off a lot of people. And there are whales, there have to be 1 million whales playing that and spending a lot of money. I just don't think the market for immersive MMO where you play 10 or more hours a week is greater than about 12 or 14
I think
million
that
people.
WoW was like a one-time phenomenon.
Right.
It happened to be such an incredibly great game that it grew unreasonably. I don't mean beyond what it should have, but it just was an insane amount of growth.
Beyond what's reasonable to expect from anybody
Well,
else.
exactly. Because before that, a successful MMO was like hundreds of thousands of players. It wasn't even close to a million.
Right, like 300K.
And ever since then, like all these other companies have been chasing that money because, like, what a sweet thing that these guys bring in that much all the time.
Well, it was a super niche experience before. Like what all WoW did to that formula was
they mainstreamed a very niche experience.
They lowered the barrier to entry.
One of my famous wrong predictions was I said in 2004 that I thought World of Warcraft would never get more than 4 million subs. Now that, of course, is when it was only a Western game.
Sure.
And, of course, it peaked at 6 million in the West and is now at 5 million. So, God, I missed that one by a mile. But, but it got to 12 because they expanded into China. But, that it just didn't make sense with 10 million total players out there. I was like, one game getting 40% would be unheard of. And it actually got 50% of the 12 million it expanded the market to. That's really crazy. One game, 50% of the people playing that genre, that's crazy.
Michael, do you want to talk about 38 for a second while we're on this this topic?
Yeah, you guys heard at least some of the big, huge guys got hired today by Epic, right?
That's super awesome.
Yeah, not all of them. And I don't know how many.
100 or so?
I don't know.
I think it was a bunch of guys that were already looking to maybe form a studio on their own.
Yeah, but I mean, I got to say, Epic, super smart because better to get guys who know each other, work together.
That's huge.
That's hard to put together.
They're already a team. That's
really great.
Together.
And also guys who are unemployed who are good. So good for them and good for all of them. Look, all this talk of the last 10 minutes about the size of the market for MMO. 38 was launched when everybody thought this was a growth market.
Yeah.
And we thought Star Wars was going to get 3 or 4 million subs and Titan is going to come along and get 3 or 4 million subs. And I think Schilling thought he was going to get 3 or 4 million subs. And Star Wars getting 1.3 million and maybe sinking, we don't know, tells you that Copernicus was going to get 1 million if they were lucky, and then start to drift back lower. And he just had no way of getting money. I mean, I'm surprised the state lent them as much money as they did, because World of Warcraft. Star Wars had at least 200 million into it in development and probably another 120 or 150 in marketing.
Right.
So it's 300 million to get serious about launching a game. I think Trion World spent something close to that on Rift. And Schilling probably only spent about 120.
Yeah.
So he couldn't finish it without more money, and I mean, it was inevitable.
And that was just kind of the cycle. Like they were already kind of pot committed to.
Yeah, they were way too far gone, right?
To this concept that when kind of the world changed underneath them, it's like, well, you can't do that anymore. You have to be free to play. It's like that's a such a completely different model that requires such a completely different approach to the way the game is structured.
Yeah, because I mean, you launch a free-to-play game and you just have to stay 2 levels ahead of the best player. You know, you don't have to build the whole universe right away.
That's true.
I really would like to ask you how much stock you think the theory that the governor's comments really negatively affected 38 Studios. Like, there's been a lot of this talk in the past month or
The
maybe
current
like week.
the current governor. I mean, when
Yeah,
he
the
was
current
saying, "I'm
governor,
going to
Chafee,
see if
and-
I can keep him solvent" and all
Right.
that, yeah, it scared the crap out of everybody.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because I
but
didn't
is
know
that
that
the
was
end of the
coming.
studio?
I got reporter calls that day, and I'm like, "There's no way they're out of money." Like they just did at Kings of Amalur. They just brought in about $30 million. There's no way they're out of money.
But they also couldn't pay their nominal.
Well, they clearly were in
1.125
debt
million
when they
payment.
got the Kings of Amalur money, and that probably paid it off. But who knew? Yeah, I don't think they were planning on going bankrupt. I think this kind of came out
But
of
they
no. I
had
think
to
it's
know. It seems like there's years of mismanagement that leads up to that. It's
I
not
would-
just like
I
out of nowhere,
suppose-
we're out of money.
I
Well,
suppose.
I think the years of mismanagement was they were always banking on more funding
Right.
coming as they
Sure,
were going
sure.
along, and there was never like a real long tail plan. It was just like, okay, we have this funding, now let's just keep making the game until we get close to running out of money again, and then we'll get more money.
in
And-
fairness,
But that's a
that's
terrible
what happened.
plan.
It is
That's
absolutely a
a
terrible
dangerously
plan.
risky
Tryon
plan.
did that though.
yeah.
Tryon ran that way, and they did another round. And Terra did that too when they did another round before.
But like you said, they
launched.
spent the kind of money they did to make that product work, whereas 38 did not spend that much money. They did not have the money
Well,
to
I
spend
mean,
on that stuff.
Like what you're talking about though is like those rounds of investment, right? It's like you can't get it all up front.
Right.
If you need
Sure.
300, it's not like you can just get 300 right away.
No,
it's
you
like
can get
sort of
20
need to
here
do
and
it
10 there, right.
in rounds as you go. So like I don't think it's as far fetched as people reading it think. You know, like I think that was actually, I don't know, kind of the plan to like keep continually getting funding. So yeah,
I mean, the
But
government.
they got way further down to the felt than they really should have.
Right.
They
If they
stopped
could-
using
if they
couldn't
poker
meet
terms
payroll,
for the
yeah, if
rest
they
of the
can't
night.
make,
Sure.
make payroll, then obviously. But you're right. I mean, the governor should have not said anything publicly, and the state should have considered giving him another couple $1 million while they figured out. Because honestly, better to shop the studios and sell them, even if you sell them for a couple $1 million. The state
I mean,
gets a couple
really,
$1 million more.
like the governor, kind of in hindsight now, like the way that a lot of that stuff happened publicly, kind of shot the state of Rhode Island in the foot and any chance of them recouping this massive loan that they gave out.
You can't sell a studio who's fired all its employees and shut the doors.
Right, like those assets and the
Right.
name or whatever name that they didn't have, really, it doesn't have a huge amount of value.
Yeah, they would have had a chance of selling the IP in the studio, and the IP is worth more with the team to work on it. Just like the Warner Brothers purchase of what do they call them, the NetherRealm, the Mortal Kombat guys. That, even though it was in bankruptcy, the team was together. The IP was 2/3 done, and Warner stepped in and bought it, and it worked out great. You
Yeah.
can buy a team and IP. Now that was valuable IP that it was a sequel, but still, I think that Copernicus probably had a chance if somebody wanted to buy. I don't know if anybody steps in though.
I have
Hard to
another.
step in.
I have another awesome question about this that I don't understand about this story. Is that so? You've got Schilling and Rhode Island, and you're investing in this big MMO, and okay, great, and then Big Huge starts having problems.
Ben
So they-
Gilbert, ladies and gentlemen,
Goodbye, Ben Gilbert. Go right up
See
your
you, Ben.
Mario News.
joystick.
They decided to buy up Big Huge Games and then
real warm.
rebrand the
Patrick
the
Klepek
action RPG
tagging
they're
in
doing,
for,
and like get an Amalur game out there as they're working on the big MMO. That costs a shitload of money, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
a lot of employees.
Acquire the studio so that's the only part that I don't understand. I feel like the whole thing sort of makes sense to my brain except for that part where it's like I don't
Yeah, that was probably the strategic mistake for Schilling.
Okay.
Because he didn't get a big payoff. I mean, Amalur sold like 1 million units, so maybe $45 million wholesale, probably $30 million to them, best case. And between the salaries he paid those guys for the couple of years they worked on the game, and what he paid for the studio, he lost money on that whole deal. So not a good deal. But I think in his head, they'll sell 5 million. They'll do Skyrim. And the problem is Skyrim was Elder Scrolls 6 or something. I mean,
Five.
was it 5? So, that's a brand from a studio we know, and Amalur was new everything.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it actually did pretty well for new IP and got a pretty good rating for new IP.
Yeah.
It was okay. It's just you don't expect. I didn't expect Skyrim to sell 10 million because what did Elder Scrolls 4 sell? 4 million, probably
Yeah.
4 or 5. So I mean, it takes a while to build these brands up, and so maybe his plan was they'll do a game every 2 years, but we're not going to find out.
Sort of like make the IP more relevant before the big MMO hits or something. I mean, like,
yeah, no, he
I don't know. I don't want to.
I mean, if Epic wants to
It's
go in
just
right now and
speculation.
offer the state of Rhode Island a Big Mac and fries, they'll get the IP to Kingdoms of Amalur. I mean, it's in bankruptcy,
Yeah.
so the highest bidder gets it. What's the IP worth to any other publisher? Nothing.
What if I buy 2 Big Macs?
There you go.
Dude, you got it.
That's it.
I
That's
think
it.
Patrick Klepek.
Quarter pounder with
Live
cheese,
stream.
baby.
Shouldn't have announced my
Kingdoms of
my
Amalur.
dollar my
Cheese.
dollar
Patrick
menu plan
Klepek.
to
Rhode
get the
Island
Amalur IP.
Needs those hamburgers real bad.
Patrick Klepek, how you doing?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Doing good.
You seem all right.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm
Okay.
fine. I mean,
Okay.
it's E3.
Yeah.
Tired, but
Yeah.
powering through it.
Yeah.
Real early day tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
I just
Don't
looked
think,
at.
can't think about that.
I
No,
just
no.
looked at my watch after
I
you
know.
said that.
I know.
You are already losing your voice. You have
Yeah.
your voice is
Got all
transformed in the last
We're
hour.
doing the math right now.
Okay, I think I have to leave.
Yeah,
I'm up in 6 hours,
yeah, I'm
and I'm
sitting here
tired.
doing the math. How much sleep can I get if I leave right now?
Yeah.
How
Hey,
much
this is
how much
awesome.
sleep can you get on those shitty beds that we're not gonna be able to sleep on anyway?
My bed's
I'll tell you.
fine.
I'll tell you
Fuck
this.
all you.
Never enough. Not
Yeah,
during
never
E3.
We still have 2 press conferences to talk about at least.
We do.
Oh my God.
Anything else EA related that folks feel?
It wasn't that much to.
How about Battlefield Premium? No
Let's
one
Oh.
brought that
the
up.
less said about that,
I'm
the
out
better.
on that one.
I am
Hey, thank you
That
for having
drove
me.
him out of
Brad
the
Muir,
Brad Muir's out.
double
Thank
fine.
you for having me. All of you are awesome.
Thank you.
I'll see you
Get
later.
yourself some sleep.
Thank you for joining us
I
here
am-
on the show today,
Constantly amused
tonight,
at
tomorrow.
Bye, Brad.
EA's endless attempts at the whole connectivity thing, where they're always talking about like in their sports games and everything. It's like we want to get players connected. We want to connect to your social networks. We want to you have this EA account, you have this Origin account, all this shit.
Yeah.
And no one cares.
Yeah.
It just seems like nobody cares, but they keep doing it, and it is just baffling to me that they continue to put all this time into these initiatives that it seems like no one is interested in at all. Am I totally off base here? Michael
So what are we
Pachter?
talking about?
I think
EA's
multiplayer.
connectivity,
What-
constant
what
crazy crap.
connectivity
Just
thing?
like the Origin stuff, like their constant social media.
I think multiplayer works really well with some kinds of games and works less well with other kinds of games. So multiplayer shooter, tag team, 4-on-4, 16-on-16, totally makes sense. You get it. I mean, it's like the squad. It makes sense. And multiplayer World of Warcraft raids makes sense, and you get it. Multiplayer Madden, I'm not even sure what the hell you're doing. I mean, I get one-on-one, team against team, but I don't want to be the wide receiver. So I'm not sure even how to do it. And so it's not intuitive to most people. And so all the other connection stuff is like matching your achievements with your friends. Like,
yeah,
I don't care.
that's the shit I've never
Right,
gotten.
I don't get it either. And so I think multiplayer isn't for everybody and it isn't for every game. I mean, co-op works really well in some games, but maybe you could play sports that way.
I want to say that they've maybe gotten a taste for it some with things like the auto log in Hot Pursuit, of kind of stumbling upon in a certain way this asynchronous.
Yeah.
You're not playing like directly and actively against other people,
Put
but
your best time
you're
up. Or
you're
whatever.
creating
Trials is that way.
you're creating this
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly that. Yeah,
this sort of rolling metagame of like,
Trials
okay,
Evolution has your friend's car show up in the game and you race them
Right.
against them.
Yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
awesome.
like
Yeah, that
you've
is
gone
awesome.
against
That's
like
competitive.
you've kind of gone through the content of the game of like these are the challenges that are inherent to the game, but then like and Hot Pursuit did this pretty masterfully, and so they keep trying to I think recapture that of extending the life of that product. Like that game stayed interesting much longer than the core structure of that game that was there could
Yes.
really support.
Well, and Autolog worked really well on Battlefield. There are extensions of
Yeah.
what Criterion came up with that have worked really well for other EA properties.
Sure. So EA is going to do the shotgun approach of like this worked well for Battlefield 3. This worked well for Hot Pursuit.
Oh, what just happened over there?
He's typing as we speak on NeoGAF. You are.
I think my problem was like I didn't even need. I actually tuned out as soon as the word premium came up.
Yep.
And it had nothing to do with the game or what they were offering. It's like, you know what? how many subscriptions to how many things do we have in our life now? It's like, I don't want to pay a monthly fee for whatever it is. Like, I'm already paying this, that, the other, Comcast,